quicker because
we've done it once.
We've done it once, and it remembers, luckily. So it takes a little bit
because
before.
we didn't even have the account hooked up. I thought we did, but we didn't. Or at least we didn't with your computer.
Yeah. Always these surprises, right?
But,
Okay. And then, hold on a second.
Welcome.
Yeah. Here, it's the
Welcome
title.
on YouTube. Welcome, YouTubers.
I know, we're YouTubers now, so we're cool.
I know. Our son.
I know.
He's like, you have a YouTube channel.
I know.
So funny.
Of course, he follows these Minecraft YouTubers that have like 12 million followers, right? So I don't think we'll make it this year.
And we're just not that cool.
I know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to be cool.
I know.
I'm beyond that. Thank goodness.
I know. Right? So where was I?
You need to go live on Facebook, and I will change the title. Just go live. You don't even need to.
Okay, good.
I'll change the title.
So I'll go on Facebook and turn on the recording here just in case. Hey, yeah, I got already a little crowd on Zoom. Excellent. And Katie McGatchy says hello again. I know. Maxine Lowry says hello. Sarah Barlow from Smoky, California. Yeah. Christina, hello. Deutsche Version was for me the first time on YouTube. Great. Oh, excellent. You watched us. Wow. You were the one. Yeah, so it's new for us too.
Does it show that we're on?
It's still starting. It says it's starting on live video.
Right.
It takes a while. Yeah, so Sarah Barlow from California. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear how terrible it is at the moment. I keep reading a little, here and there, and seeing pictures of all the smoke and the fires, and in an earlier live stream we did, somebody was saying that they can't ride for a while because the air quality is so bad. There's so much smoke in the air, and so it made me, remember here the time, the years that I lived in California during the 90s. I lived in the LA area. And I had horses in Malibu for a while, and there was a fire in the fall of '93, and we had to evacuate actually. And I was living in Westwood, so I couldn't get into Malibu because they would only allow residents. What?
Could you abandon this, put this on the good Wi-Fi, and then do it again?
Yeah, but I don't have the
key.
The key in there exactly.
Where is it?
It's on the back of here. Sorry. Yeah. So anyway, so we had to evacuate a horse. It was pretty scary. But the air quality back then was never bad, even when there were fires in the area. So I can't even imagine what it must be like to today with these horrible fires and horrible air quality. It seems to have gotten a lot worse. And I mean, even when we were still living in the US in like 2009, 2010, I mean, there were fires every year, but they were not nearly as bad as they've been in the last 5 years. So it's really
getting
frightening. And I'm really hoping that, it'll subside soon. You get some rain and the firefighters will hopefully be able to, get the fires under control so that hopefully no lives are lost and no homes are lost. And it's just heartbreaking to see it, especially when you see areas where we used to live that hits, closer to home than if it's an area that we don't know personally.
Go live on Facebook.
Yeah.
You're on the Wi-Fi. On the good Wi-Fi.
Okay, let me see here. Let's see if I go.
And then this will kill our hotspot. This
probably, yeah. We're going through a SIM card a day or two. It's crazy. Used to last for a week or two.
They're supposed to last a month.
A month. Yeah. Oh no. Hold on a second. I have to find it. Stupid. Find the right place where I can go live. Here it is, I think. Okay, now this should hopefully work. And then tomorrow I have to run into town and get another hotspot. SIM card, several SIM cards.
Yeah.
Hey, Nessa from Smoky, Oregon. I know.
Oh,
it's
Nessa!
I know. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when we lived in Oregon, we never had any fire problems in the Willamette Valley. That's, you know, Eugene and Portland. That was always safe, you know. The fires were always very far away and crazy, you know. Yeah, it's crazy, yeah. Anyway, so hey, Mary Ann from South Africa, Wendy Barkowski from Maryland, and Robin Brickman from North Carolina. Yeah, wow. Hey, Alex from Wakefield, UK, and Sue Van Norman from Maryland. Yeah, I used to do clinics in Maryland 20 years ago. So long time ago. Hey, Ellison Bear from Smoky San Diego. Yeah. And Sarah Barlow is saying it's awful. I'm in the Central Valley. I haven't been able to ride for the last 2 weeks due to the fires, and I have the regional finals next week. Oh wow. Yeah, that's hard. I don't know. Can they even hold competitions anymore in these conditions, or is that all just put on hold? Hey, Alison Bear says I lived in Malibu then. Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I had horses there from like what 91 to 93, 4, 94, I think, and then we moved to the next door to the paddock and near Griffith Park. World, huh? I know, that's crazy. Wow, yeah.
Wild, huh?
I know. Yeah.
Hey, Facebook. Hey, yeah, Zoom. Hey, YouTube. Hey.
Yeah, I have to.
Where else? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Check who's second. See, I now have to multitask here.
Totally. So, and you have to go between Zoom and YouTube. There shouldn't be a lot on YouTube yet, though.
Yeah, I know.
I had a couple of people watching on the German line.
I know. Terry Reth from Ocala. Hey. Ursula Davis. Yeah. Colin Miller from Rainsville, Alabama. And Rebecca Julius from Memphis. Hey. Delane Wright from Rhode Island. Hey.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, this is exciting. People from all over the world.
I love it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Aloha from Denver, Colorado.
Aloha. Bom dia.
I know. Well, boa tarde.
Yeah.
It's not daytime anymore.
Noite.
Yeah, no. Sarah Barlow says our AQI has been over 400 the last few days. Wow. I don't really know what it means, but I'm sure it's bad. I mean, when we lived in you know, when I lived in LA, AQI was not even a thing. Nobody talked about that, you know. I mean, you know, there was smog, but the fires never caused that kind of problem. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. I can't even imagine.
We had fires every year. Now there's fires every year.
And we had fires, but they were far away and they were small. They were contained. So yeah, sometimes you would see, sometimes you would see like smoke far away. But yeah,
the big ones every year.
Yeah, it never impacted air quality really, as far as I can remember. You know, in the early 90s, you know, mid 90s. Yeah. Wow. It's just it's heartbreaking. Yeah.
Thomas,
yes,
that was 30 years ago.
What? Wow. It doesn't seem like that long ago. Oh my God, now I feel old. Thanks.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I know.
Oh, anything I can do to make you feel old and crusty. It's my job.
Oh, no. Good job.
Thanks.
Nika Lepak says here from slightly less smoky Idaho. Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, you're still in the vicinity, right? But
there's fires in Idaho too.
Yeah, I did a couple of clinics in eastern Idaho. It was nice there. It was really pretty area.
I really liked Idaho.
On the Wyoming border. Like near Twin Falls, I think, that area.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Eva Suhu says hello from Northern California. AQI is actually a bit better today. Oh, good. Thank God.
Okay.
Thank God. Yeah. And Sarah's.
Depends on the jet streams.
Yeah. Sarah is saying they're questioning whether they will still have the finals or postpone. Yeah, I would imagine that it's all up in the air, right? Because you don't really know what's going to happen, you know, where the fires are going to go, or how much longer they're going to burn. Yeah. And I know fires can, you know, pivot and go the other way and, you know, accelerate, decelerate, and so on. It seems so unpredictable.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alison Bear says, I rode my Landgraf gelding in a clinic I did with you in 2009. Wow, really? Sorry, I don't remember. 2009 in
where?
Was it California?
Oh,
that would have been in northern in the Vacaville area, right? That Amelia organized, probably.
I think.
Yeah, because I didn't do many California clinics back then.
Was it 2009 or 2010? Because in 2010 we did California.
Yeah, a little bit when we drove.
Yeah,
yeah, but no, 2009 I did a couple for Amelia in Vacaville, so maybe that was there. Yeah.
I was pregnant that year.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so Aoife Sue says, no wonder you're going through so much data. You're streaming through 3 channels. Well, yeah, no. First time?
Well, we weren't before.
We weren't, but now.
But because Facebook has been super, super crappy to us, super unreliable, and people are leaving Facebook in droves. So we want to start moving our platform over to YouTube. So if you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube, go subscribe, click the little bell. Click the little bell so that you get notifications whenever we're live or whenever we have a new video.
Yeah. Hey, Amy from Sweden.
Amy from Sweden.
And Sarah Barlow says our big creek fire is up to 220,000 acres plus. Oh my God, that's huge. That's crazy. And Nessa is saying at 100 schools cancel outdoor sports. 300 is hazardous. We were at 640 in Eugene last week.
Oh my God.
We're now at 410. Oh, this is insane. Wow.
I wonder how T is doing.
I know. Wow.
She can't breathe even.
Allison is saying nope in Moore Park at CEC. Yeah. Ah, crazy. Gives me chills to think about that. Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, so Suzanne Zimmerman says, hi from Kelowna, BC. We have AQI off the charts due to the fires in Washington and Oregon. Wow, that far. BC, wow. Goes all the way north, wow. Wow, crazy.
So we should get started with the topic because not everyone is here to listen to us chat as much as I love it.
I know. But
I love it.
Yeah.
I love catching up with all of you.
It's close to home sometimes.
It does, we lived in California for many years. I lived there for a lot of my childhood too. I consider myself from California, even though I've lived all over.
Yeah.
And so, it's really close to my heart.
Yeah.
In Oregon, we lived for more years than I lived in California.
I know. Yeah. So just checking on Facebook if we missed anything. Barb Kai says, hi everyone, I'm excited to be part of this course as I've been struggling with my Sangres horse and flying changes. Yay, are you in the course? That'd be great.
She's in the flying changes course, awesome.
She says he's a cross of PRE, Arab and thoroughbred and an absolute ballerina. He's so extremely flexible and athletic, but also very high strung and gets hyper emotional when we try the changes. He tends to buck and fall apart. I hope you have advice for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, it's like 3 hot breeds, right?
Yeah.
That's an explosive mix.
You have a very agile horse, probably.
I know, very athletic.
Yes, very athletic.
Hey, Luke Fly, Romania. Hey, wow.
Luke from Romania.
That might be a first. I don't know that
we have course members in Romania.
We do it?
Yes, we do.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize.
Romania, Latvia, oh gosh, all over.
Emma Boyle, hello from Islay, the island on the west coast of Scotland, famous for whiskey. That's awesome.
Interesting.
Scotland, hey.
My heritage is from Scotland. I've never been there.
Yeah, and Ricky Boving from right at the German-Dutch border. Hey.
Hi.
Let me see here, who else is here? Just making sure I don't miss anyone. Jackie Mustard from South Africa. We have a lot of South Africans.
Hello, all the South Africans.
And Woodall from Ontario. It's Ontario, Canada, probably not Ontario, California, right?
You never know.
You never know, I know.
Ontario, Texas.
And Jennifer Ann is saying, hi, listening while driving to training. It's smoky in Alberta, even in Alberta. Wow, and you're pretty far away, I guess, from the big fires, right?
Probably, I would think.
Hey, Michelle Skander from Ensinger from Norway.
Hi.
Yeah, so we had seen the ones above that.
Welcome, everybody.
Why are we here? What are we doing?
Seed and AIDS and flying change.
Oh, okay, thanks for
this is always a topic that a lot of people are interested in.
Yeah, so here, real quick, Pam Thompson says, hi from New Zealand. Not sure my horse and I are quite ready for flying changes, but we're getting close to with the lateral work. I think I've never ridden them, so new territory for us.
It's good to be thinking about them before you
exciting. It's exciting, yeah. It's good to think ahead, and you can do the preparatory exercises early, long before the horse does his first flying change. And then they grow into it slowly.
Yes.
Like you and the horse can gradually kind of acclimatize and get used to the movement patterns. You could get used to the seat and the aids, and the horse gets used to the, weight shifts and, change of bend and so on.
Flying change isn't a scary big thing. It's a logical progression.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our philosophy.
Yeah, you can break it down into lots of tiny steps, right? Yeah. So Mary Boakes is excited for the course, although I still have tons of work to do with my seat. We'll still attempt the odd change when we think we're ready. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? Even if you decide you don't want to actually do the changes most of the time, all of the preparatory and supporting exercises, all the exercises that teach the flying change are really great for making the horse more balanced, more supple, straighter.
Exactly,
and so even if you don't care about the flying change at the moment, you're going to see a huge improvement in your horse.
Exactly. Yeah, I've always seen that in clinics. Yeah, when sometimes people would come and say, "Yeah, I'd like to do a flying change with my horse," right? So I would choose a pattern and lead them through it, and often it would work. Sometimes the flying change didn't happen that session because it would just take more time. The horse wasn't quite ready. Needed more preparation, but they always improved in terms of balance, straightness, suppleness, throughness, permeability. So. Yep, I am.
Okay, good. Just wanted to check.
I know.
Just in case.
I know. Yeah.
And any comments on YouTube?
No, not yet.
Okay.
People don't expect us there.
No, they don't. Not yet. But
not yet.
It will happen.
We have 6 people watching on YouTube.
Hello, 6 YouTubers.
Woo-hoo.
Welcome. There's a little chat box. You're welcome to chat with us.
I know. Yeah, you can.
If you want.
Interact. Yeah. So anyway, we wanted to talk about timing and seat and aids and so on of the flying changes. Right?
And this is all in lead up to another run of our flying changes course. We have a course about training the flying changes so that you can learn how to train your own horse, the flying changes. As you heard a number of other people allude to, they're in the course, they've just enrolled or they have enrolled previously and they're taking it again. And so we're going to give you information about the course when we're done with this. But first, we're going to talk about the seat and the aids.
Yeah. So, flying changes. Let me see that I start. I have to kind of backtrack, right? Because there's sort of a logical
once upon a time
train of thought that leads to it, right? But if you think of the flying change as a canter depart, but not from the walk or the trot, but from the canter, like you depart from the right lead canter into the left lead or vice versa, right? Then you can apply basically everything you know about canter departs to the flying change, right? When you do a normal canter depart from walk or trot, the outside hind leg lifts the horse into the canter. The more the outside hind leg is under the body and flexing, the more uphill and, balanced the canter depart will be. So in the canter, if you're in the canter, then the old inside hind leg is going to become the new outside hind. So in order to get a good expressive uphill flying change, you need to find a way to flex that old inside hind leg. So you could do that by stirrup stepping or letting your body weight sink into it. Maybe either you let your whole pelvis sink in the second beat of the canter stride. When your pelvis gets pulled forward, you could try and sink down so you're not getting pulled forward as much, but you're pressing the inside hind into the ground. Or you could try sitting more on that inside seat bone for that moment. You could apply a half hold on one of the reins. And then as the horse lifts up again, he in the suspension phase, he will change the organization of his feet, right? The horse can only change leads during the suspension phase when all 4 feet are off the ground. That's the only time when they can reorganize. So you have to prepare that, and the more the old inside hind flexes between the body mass on the ground, the higher that inside hind can propel the horse off the ground. And the higher the horse comes off the ground and the longer he stays in the air, the easier it will be to reorganize the feet, right? So, which means horses that have a naturally bouncy, uphill, relatively slow canter stride with lots of air time, they will find it easier to change leads. Horses that have a quick, downhill, flat, scratchy canter with next to no suspension phase, they will find it very difficult, right? So one of the preparations for flying changes is to improve the quality of the canter. So it is relatively slow, uphill, lots of air time, very straight, so that watching from behind or in front, you only see 2 legs, not 3, not 4, just 2, So, and then when you are approaching the flying change, assuming the horse already knows how to do it, right? You would transfer more weight into the inside hind. Then you change the bend, and then you give a little nudge for the horse's pelvis to move a little in the other direction to assume that new bend through the whole body, and then change leads. That little nudge against the pelvis is what makes the horse change the footfall, from behind, from back to front. So sitting down, half halting, stirrup stepping is one way of loading that old inside hind. It's like flexing a spring, like one of those coil springs that car suspensions have. You can picture that, you press that together and then let go, and as you let go, it bounces back to the original shape. So if you press the hind leg into the ground and flex the joints, then in the release, it will extend the joints and bounce back to the original shape, so to speak. Another option you have to accomplish that weight shift is based on the old canter depart preparation, where you ride a 20-meter circle, for example. In the trot, you enlarge 2 strides, right? So that the body weight is shifted from the inside shoulder or the inside pair of legs onto the outside pair of legs. Then you half hold into the outside hind leg. That shifts the weight more specifically into the outside hind. And then you ask for the canter depart, right? And you can apply the same principle when you're cantering a straight line. You can use your old outside leg and rein to move the horse a little sideways from the old outside leg and rein into the new outside leg and rein, and then your new outside leg and rein can trigger the flying change. And you can use actually your new outside leg and rein together. So the new outside leg supports your pelvis and moving the croup a little in the new direction, and your new outside rein can support and help move the croup over. It can help load the old inside hind, and by shifting the weight into it, you kind of hold it on the ground a little bit longer, right? So then the other hind leg has a chance to pass it, right? That's another aspect that plays a role, right? When you're doing a normal canter depart from the trot or the walk. Walk and trot are symmetrical in their footfall, especially the trot. Both hind legs take equally fast strides, equally long strides, left, right, etc. But in the canter, the inside hind leg reaches farther forward than the outside hind leg, right? In order to get from the symmetrical footfall sequence into the asymmetrical footfall sequence, you have to hold the outside hind on the ground a little longer. So in a way, you slow it down, and you accelerate the inside hind leg in the canter. And then this regular left, right becomes a left, right for the right lead canter, for example, or right, left for the left lead canter. So, the easiest way to slow a hind leg down is by simply sitting on it, shifting the weight into it, hold it on the ground a little longer. And by shifting the more weight into the outside hind, you take weight off of the inside, because you're not getting heavier as you're shifting putting more weight into the outside hind. There's just a constant overall weight, and if you move more weight into one side or one leg, that means it has to come from somewhere. So another leg will be, carrying less weight, will be relieved, so to speak. So if you shift weight into the outside hind, you take weight out of the inside pair of legs. So sitting more onto the outside hind holds it on the ground longer. You can half hold. In addition, you can stirrup step. That just increases the slowing down effect. And then you unload the inside hind. You could now drive with your inside leg when you're asking for a canter depart from walk to trot, from walk or trot to canter. And in the flying change, essentially, the old inside hind is ahead of the old outside hind, and now for the flying change, that has to reverse. So you have to slow down the old inside hind, you have to speed up the new outside hind. Slowing down, you do basically the same way as from canter to trot, walk to, not trot to canter, walk to canter transition. Sit on the old inside hind, half fold into it, hold it on the ground, and then allow the new inside hind to reach more forward. And you can do that fairly easily by giving a little nudge with your old inside leg to ask the croup to move in the new direction. Some people also, I think, drive with the new inside leg, thinking of driving the new inside hind forward, which would make it even more like a normal canter depart. I typically use the old inside leg to give a little lateral nudge for the pelvis to change. You can ask for the change in a number of different ways, though. So once you have the horse all set up and prepared, he's ready to change, you could trigger the change either by nudging with your old inside leg, thinking of giving the horse a haunches in position in the new direction. That's a very common, very popular way to do it, right? A lot of trainers do that. The downside of that is that sometimes the lower legs start swinging a lot, like especially once you get into the tempo changes, and then sometimes the legs get a little noisy. Another possibility is to lift the new inside hind and move it forward, and that changes the position of your pelvis. I've tried that, and that worked pretty well. You can also use your old inside seat bone or hip and move that back and out towards the old outside hind, and that also creates that rotation of the horse's pelvis. So either way, inside hip up and forward, or outside hip down and old inside hip down and back around, that works. You could use knee, the old inside, new outside knee to trigger the change, or knee and thigh, because some horses don't like the lower leg aids that much. If you give a strong calf aid, some horses then hold their breath and they brace the belly against the belly muscles against you, or they push the rib cage out against you, and then that, the permeability suffers, and the aids don't go through so well, and they lose their softness in their body and the suppleness. But so you have a lot of different options with which you can trigger the flying change once the horse is prepared. Like, preparation is always super important, right? And either shift the weight by just sitting on that old inside hind, or stepping into it, half folding into it, or use a little bit of that enlarging feeling, enlarge from the old outside leg and rein, and then from enlarged, think haunches in the new direction, right? And that becomes a pretty reliable aid. Later, when the horse is familiar with the flying change and he knows what it's all about, then you can reduce all these aids, and it becomes a lot more subtle and smaller and invisible, and then, so that you can do tempo changes eventually, right? So then in terms of the timing, you can give the aid basically, thinking that the horse changes leads when he's in the air, when all 4 feet are off the ground. You'd have to give the aid a little bit before that, right? Because it takes a little time from the thought, that originates in your brain to go all the way through your body, to make these adjustments. Then from your body, it has to go into the horse's body. The horse feels it, right? Then it goes to his brain, and from the brain back to his legs. So, all these signals are sent back and forth, right? It takes a little while. So if you apply the actual trigger aid for the flying change in either the second beat or the third beat, or between second and third beat of the stride before the change, then chances are pretty good that the horse will change leads, right? So second beat is when the inside hind and outside front are on the ground, and that's, you can use your body weight to press the inside hind into the ground, and then as the horse rolls on, from the inside hind towards the inside front, the inside hind lifts up, and at that moment you could already start with your old inside leg and change the pelvic position, and then it sort of naturally unfolds, right? I actually give the aid without thinking a whole lot about the timing. That's one of the few things that I do more by feel than by actually deliberately thinking. It's like you feel it in your body when the time is right, but you can also, of course, analyze it. You can also try to feel for the moment when your seat gets pulled forward, and then you initiate the rotation and the leg aid from the old inside leg. And then by the time you're done with that, the horse is probably already in the third beat or starting to begin the suspension phase, right? So, and then hopefully the horse will change and reorganize his legs when he's in the air. If you were to give the aid right in the air, there might not be enough time for the horse to execute what you're saying, especially if the canter is a little quick or the suspension phase is a little slow, then yeah, he may not be able to respond in time, if you were to give the aid during the suspension phase, right? So give it a little bit before. So the second beat is recognizable because your seat gets pulled forward, right? And the third beat is recognizable because it's the lowest point of the canter stride and your inside knee drops down, right? But if you're just sort of cantering along and then, all of a sudden you give that aid in the second beat of the canter stride, the horse is probably not going to change because he will be very surprised and he didn't see that coming and he wasn't really prepared, right? So you always have to let the horse know what's coming in advance, right? By transferring weight into the inside hind leg, for example, inside pair of legs. And when you shift the weight to the inside hind and you start counterbending the horse, the old canter lead is starting to get a little awkward. You can feel that there is a certain torque building up in the horse's body, right? And then the old canter lead is starting to become a little awkward for the horse, or starting to be more work, right? And then if you add the element of haunches in the new direction, then the horse starts thinking, well, this doesn't really make sense at all. What you're asking me to do, not on this lead at least, it would make sense on the other lead. If you're cantering on the left lead, shift the weight to the left, flex right, and then you're asking the horse, now move your butt to the right, and the horse will start thinking, well, this would really only make sense if I were cantering on the right lead. In the left lead, that's really a weird thing to do, right? And some horses then just take the initiative, like they add up to 2 + 2, right? And they say, well, this only makes sense in the right lead, so let me switch, and then, we're good to go. Other horses will maybe not take the initiative, but they will be very relieved if you ask them to change leads. Like, oh, thank God, now it makes sense again, right? So basically, the idea is to put the horse in a situation where the old lead becomes increasingly odd or weird or uncomfortable, tiring. So the horse is starting to look for a better alternative, so that he eventually gets the idea that, well, you know what, if I could just change leads, life would be a lot easier for me, And then when he's come to that conclusion, then he wants to do the flying change, then you don't have to tell him to do a flying change. You can invite him, or you can, make it easy for him and so on. And then he'll be more or less grateful that he's allowed to do that, right? And if you think, back about situations where the horse did a flying change that you didn't want, that probably happens to everybody here and there, right? The changes that you didn't ask for are usually the best ones, right? They're clean, they're easy, they're effortless. The ones that you ask for yourself, they're not always clean, they're not always so effortless or so easy, right? So, and that happened to me. And then I started thinking, well, why is that? How come the ones I don't want are so good, and the ones I do want, they're not necessarily good? So then I started thinking, well, there must be something in the line that I'm riding, in the exercise, or something in my seat, in my aids, that must suggest the flying change to the horse as sort of a logical next thing to do, right? And then you can analyze, you can observe, like, where was the weight, how was the horse bending, what was I doing? And then you usually find what the elements were that gave the horse the idea that maybe changing leads would be a good thing to do at the moment, right? And then you can recreate either the same situation and see if you can now ask for the change, see if you can get the horse to do it on command. Or you could take these ingredients that you discovered, right? These gymnastic elements or biomechanical elements, and make a new exercise out of them. So there'll always be an element of shifting the weight, changing the bend, moving the pelvis, and so on. And you can package them in 100 different ways basically, and think of an exercise that has those elements in that order, and then see if the horse will do the flying change. Right, with a little luck, you can set things up so the horse thinks of it. Thinks, well, flying change would be awfully nice now. Or being able, it's not even so much that they think flying change. They think, if I could canter on the other lead, I would be a lot happier now. It would be a lot easier, right? And then, in order to get there, well, they just change leads, right? Because that's what they do in the pasture usually. That's what they do on their own. It's not a big deal in the pasture for most horses, and so it doesn't need to be a big deal under saddle either, right? Of course, there are horses that don't have an especially good natural canter, that prefer to do everything in the trot unless they're really in a big hurry, and then they gallop, with the belly to the ground. And there are horses that you never see doing flying changes anywhere in the pasture. They drop out, back to trot, and then pick up the new lead. Those are the ones that are difficult to train, of course, right? If the flying change seems like an unnatural thing to do for them, and if it's not something they ever do on their own, then it'll be hard to do it under saddle. But most horses will do flying changes. Most horses will, like when you see them play in the pasture, they will change leads here and there. And so obviously it's not that hard for them, right? It's just a matter of movement economy usually, and comfort to some extent. And so if you can set a situation up where cantering on the other lead would be more comfortable, seems more attractive, would be more energy conserving, then it doesn't take much to convince them to do a flying change, and a lot of them will just do it. They take the initiative. They don't even wait for you to ask. Right? So yeah, so that's sort of the build up, right? Shift the weight, change the bend, move the hips of the horse, and if you just follow that, and if the horse is supple enough in his body and is able to shift the weight from one side to the other, and is able to change the bend, to the outside and back, then you should be able to do flying changes with the horse, right? So let me see, there were a couple of questions on Facebook. I have to scroll up a little ways here. Make sure I go far enough up. I think the first one was Amanda Morgan. Any suggestions on prep exercises prior to the flying change? Yeah, there's a number of things, right, that can teach the horse the skills that he needs to do a flying change. I mean, one fairly obvious one is the simple changes, right? The horse should be able to do simple changes through the trot and the walk fairly easily. But the horse also needs to have this ability to shift the weight back and forth, and it needs to have the ability to change the bend and to move the hips. That's why, for example, shoulder in renvers transitions or shoulder in haunches in transitions are good preparations, because they teach the horse some of the skills that go into the flying change. So some of these movement aspects of the shoulder in renvers transition or shoulder in haunches in transition, they show up in the flying change as well. Yeah, so those would be the important ones in a way. You also have to be able to move the horse's hips without moving his shoulders, and vice versa. So if you're, let's say you're riding a center line and you're asking the horse to move his hips to the left, whether it's a leg yield or haunches in or counter shoulder in or shoulder in, doesn't matter. Just shoulders on the center line, croup to the left. He is not allowed to move his shoulders to the left or the right, right? When you're moving the croup towards the stiffer side, the shoulder likes to go in the same direction because they're kind of stuck together, right? But that would, when you allow that, the horse will change leads late behind, if you don't clean that up at the walk and the trot and so on. Or, moving the hips in the hollow direction, but the shoulders then often go in the opposite direction. So if you don't fix that at the walk and the trot and so on, then the horse will probably do a flying change, but he'll land crooked, which means now, yeah, you did your first flying change, but what now? You know, you couldn't do another one because the horse is now crooked, so you have to straighten him, which may take a while, right? So very, very important that the horse can keep his front legs on a certain line of travel, but you can move the hips a little to the left or to the right, you know, from there. And vice versa, you should be able to keep the hind legs on the line and then move the shoulders to the left or move the shoulders to the right without the haunches doing any funny, you know, compensatory movement, so to speak. And that's not as simple or not as easy as it sounds for some horses. Some horses are very insistent that it all kind of, if you move one end, I move the other end, so to speak, right? And then you have to teach them that it's possible to move them very, very separately from each other. And that, in a way, that's key for a clean flying change, right? And when horses change late behind, it's either because the hips are stiff still, not supple enough to do the flying change, or because the shoulder drifts, you know, towards the new direction, towards the new inside, and then they have to catch themselves with a new inside front. That's why they change in front, and often they kind of fall down with the shoulders down and in, and then they change in front, but at the same time the croup goes up and out, and then, you know, they canter in the cross canter, and they can't even get a flying change sometimes at all, because, you know, if that loss of balance is too profound, then there's no chance, right? A lot of them lose the balance just a tiny bit, and then, yeah, they change first in front and then behind, but that's has to do with this shoulder control or lack of shoulder control. So when you really work on these things in the walk, in the trot, etc., you'll have a much easier time with the flying change itself. But I mean, in a sense, 95% of the flying changes work is really done at the walk and the trot, right? And then once in a while, you do a flying change to test whether your preparation was already sufficient and whether it was correct. Yeah, but yeah, you don't teach flying changes by practicing flying changes and doing like the same line with the same seat and same aids, you know, 100 times, hoping that one of those times the horse will actually do it better or correctly, whereas before he always made mistakes or didn't change at all, right? So yeah, always analyze what's preventing the horse, do the preparation at the walk and the trot, and then when you can do all these component movements of the flying change at the walk and the trot easily, then you can put it all together, canter, you know, prepare, change, and then usually actually the success rate is pretty high. Yeah. So Sue Barton says, I have a question. I find with one horse I ride, if I bring the circle smaller in trot, she'll prefer to canter rather than collect the trot. Is this okay rather than enlarge the circle? Sort of as a general, you know, rule of thumb, horses like to switch to the next higher gait when you make the work a little harder. So when you ride a volte in the trot or spiral in the trot from a big circle, the inside hind would have to carry a little bit more. And then if your horse breaks to the canter, he is probably trying to avoid working that hard. And when they break from canter to trot, it's usually because they were getting behind the aids a little bit. So then what you could do is take the canter, enlarge the circle until you back out on a 20-meter circle, go down the long side, lengthen the stride so he comes, you know, on the aids again instead of staying behind the aids, and then you can do a down transition to trot. So when they break into the canter in a more collected trot, it's usually because they sucked back, they got a little crooked, probably pushed the haunches a little to the inside, so the inside hind didn't have to support the weight so much, you know. So it gets a little crooked, gets a little behind the aids, then breaks to the canter, and you know, it's something I would correct, right? Bringing the horse back to the trot may not always work so much because they're yeah, it might make the behind the aids, it might make them suck back more. Sometimes it works, and then, you know, if you can get to the trot, I would lengthen the stride a little at the trot on a bigger line, straight line, or otherwise canter big line, lengthen the stride in the canter, then bring the horse back to the trot, and then maybe try again, you know. So yeah, that's usually what happens. They suck back a little, get a little behind the aids, and then, you know, they think cantering behind the aids would be a little easier, so I have to get them in front of the aids again. And Carolyn Heron says, how do you recommend counting the tempo changes? There's a couple of different ways you can do it, right? You can either count, yeah, the flying change as change, and then so it's like change 2, 3, 4, change 2, 3, 4 as, you know, 4 tempo changes. Or you could count, yeah, the flying change as 1, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, change 2, 3, 4. So those are the ways that I've used that seem to work pretty well. You just have to find something that works for you. So there is no right or wrong way, you know, it has to work for you. You know, so you could also do it in a functional way. Like with 3 tempo changes, you could go, I don't know, shift the weight, change the bend, and change, right? So something like that. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, you could assign each stride a certain action, you know, in your mind. That's a possibility too, you know. And then of course, if you need to keep track of how many changes you've done, then you could also go whatever, change 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, that sort of thing. Then you count how, you know, how many strides before the next change, and you count how many changes you've done. So that might be necessary to do, so you don't, like if you have the diagonal with 5 or 7 changes, and then you might lose track of how many have I done, how many do I have left to go. So you could do count every new set of, you know, every new change as higher number then. So yeah, but like I said, there's no right or wrong way. It just has to work for you, and has to be easy enough, because, you know, you've got other things to do besides counting, right? So yeah, so let me see more comments. A lot of people are good. Yeah. Der Whitehall says, I have a Lusitano who is very sensitive and quick in the mind. He does all the prep movements very easily. If he anticipates a change, he gets very excited and bouncy. How do you keep that kind of horse calm to do more than 1 as soon as he does anything, once he's already thinking, okay, I know what we're doing, and wants to do it again? Yeah, that can be a bit of a challenge with some horses. Some horses get really hot, or once they know what this is about, they see, you know, a change 8, flying change 8 everywhere, or they rev themselves up. They get tenser and tenser because they are like, I know it's coming, I know it's coming, I know it's coming, you know. But then you may have to surprise them a little bit, and either change what line you're riding, or do a down transition to the walk, and then, you know, relax. So that if you've been doing some changes on the diagonal, and you know the horse, or feel the horse getting a little hot and tense as you head for the diagonal, maybe begin the diagonal in the canter, and then walk. And then either do, you know, walk for a few strides, prepare the new lead, and then just canter from the walk in the new lead. So it's more like a simple change. Or canter, walk, long rein, take a break, right? So the horse realizes, oh, we're not doing flying changes at all, right? So if you do that a few times, then the horse kind of forgets about the flying changes, and he's not so excited anymore. So you have to break that thought pattern, or the horse. Some horses get onto sort of a mental hamster wheel, and you have to get them off of that, right? So by doing something they didn't expect, and changing the line, changing the exercise, you know, changing what you're doing, you can get them off that hamster wheel, and then you get them to listen. Because part of that getting tense and so on is this anticipation that the horse thinks he knows what's going to happen, so he's no longer paying attention to you. You know, it's just in his mind is already, you know, doing flying changes. So if you do something completely different, then he realizes, oh, I was wrong, we're not doing flying changes. And then you have his attention again, right? And then you can eventually find your way back to a flying change, maybe also when he doesn't expect it, maybe also on a line where maybe he hasn't done it yet, or where it's still new or so, right? So just keep the horse a little on his toes sometimes and be slightly unpredictable. I mean, when you train flying changes, a certain predictability and a certain anticipation is really helpful. You know, when the horse can mentally prepare for the change, then he can organize his body accordingly. But sometimes that works against you too, you know, like in your case, you know, and then being a little unpredictable and, you know, changing the exercise, changing what you're doing might be the way to go, you know, so the horse starts to listen again. So, yeah. So Jessica Canelli says, what's some prep work you can do to start working towards doing a flying lead change? For instance, training a young green horse who has never been asked for a flying change before. Yeah, I mentioned some of the exercises, right? You can practice the simple changes too, and lots of weight shifts, change of bend, move one end of the body without moving the other. Those would all be preparatory exercises. And we talk about those in our flying changes course, right? We go into all the preparatory work that's necessary. Basically prerequisites the horse has to fulfill, prerequisites the rider has to fulfill, preparatory exercises that already give the horse some of the building blocks that he will need later for the flying change. Figure eights are preparatory exercises in a way, right? For everything, for flying changes, for half passes, for all kinds of stuff, right? So, yeah. Look for exercises that practice weight shifts, that practice changing the bend, you know, that practice moving the hips back and forth, and you can come up with hundreds of exercises that contain these elements, right? And Oliver Evans says, hi, and thanks for your help. I'm trying to, okay. Says, our changes are already improving. I have a question about the fact that I've noticed with some riders of often quite high levels, as they ride the flying changes, they turn the hips, pelvis, and shoulders in opposite directions to each other. I'm wondering about this in particular after your advice regarding body positions. Yeah, some people overdo the body aids, right? Yeah, if you turn your shoulders in the new direction, then very often it rotates the pelvis the wrong way. I mean, you can do sort of a spiral seat kind of thing that would work, but it's complicated to do in a way. What is easier is if you bring your old inside hip and shoulder back, the new inside hip and shoulder forward. So you turn your whole body in one piece. That's easier, and that can be effective. But a lot of people then throw their body around, right? They throw the upper body from side to side, or they lean forward or over rotate their shoulders. And that actually interferes with the horse. That tends to destroy the balance. And that often happens when people don't really believe that the horse is going to change, when they can feel the horse is not really balanced enough, he's not really light enough on the aids. So they don't think that a normal discrete aid will be enough, and then they go, you know, and then they muscle the horse into it. And that, you know, sometimes it works, but often it doesn't, you know. And even if it does work, it doesn't look very pretty, you know, and then you may not be able to do another flying change soon after that one, because you may be, you know, you may get the flying change, but maybe you're throwing the horse off balance at the same time. You know, so yeah, better to stay a little bit more discreet in the body, prepare the horse so that he can change, you know, from a small aid, you know. And if you need a big aid, basically it just means the horse needs to get more balanced, he needs to get more supple, probably in the hip joints. Maybe has to get more agile in terms of shifting the weight from one side to the other. So yeah, if the horse requires a really big aid for the change, make him more supple, improve the balance and the straightness, and then the flying changes aid can become smaller. So it's all feedback, it's all information, right? The horse gives you feedback, the horse gives you important information with the way he does things or the way he doesn't do things. Connie Merton says, my mare has a very flat canter, so it's difficult to ask a correct flank change. Mostly she jumps first with the hind legs, yeah. Horses that change behind first, they, very often when you watch closely, you see how they canter along. Looks nice, feels nice. Then they put down the front legs, then they lift up the croup, they change behind, and then when the front legs come off the ground, they change in front. It's a very clever way of doing a very economic flying change, right? They conserve a lot of energy by doing that. And they avoid having to use the hind legs a lot, right? So with a horse like that, I would always work on getting the canter more uphill, and then prevent the horse from putting the weight on the forehand in the flying change. And you can usually do that by doing a change coming right out of a pirouette or a passade, you know, some exercise that puts a lot of weight on the inside hind. So turning tightly is always a good way to do that. Potentially out of a very steep half pass, right? When you do a very steep half pass, the inside hind leg has to carry a lot of weight. Yeah, but pirouettes usually do it. Like if you ride a canter pirouette and put as much weight on the inside hind as you can, and then coming out of the pirouette, change leads, they have to lift the shoulders because of the pirouette, and then you take advantage of that for the flying change, and then usually the change becomes clean. You know? Yeah. And there, Woodall says, what I do, but I would like to do more than one at some point quietly. Yeah, exactly. Just it takes time. You just have to sometimes wait for the horse to calm down and get used to the flying changes. If you do them so really quietly in that way, hopefully at some point the changes won't be so exciting anymore. They, you know, initially they're new, and you know, horses get excited. Eventually, hopefully, there'll be a bit of an old hat, right, and the horse won't be so, yeah, excited and you know, nervous about them anymore. Oops. So here's the next one. I have to make the whole thing a little bit bigger. So Sarah Gordon says, one of the points you mentioned as well as suppleness was through, and as assuming suppleness and the horse knows all the lateral movements, how do you get a phlegmatic horse to have enough reaction? Every ride we have to have a discussion around how responsive he needs to be, how do I get improvement over time on reaction to the aids. Yeah, that if the horse is a little phlegmatic, that it's its own challenge, right? Because then they don't respond quickly enough or lively enough to your driving aids. You would probably have to rev the horse up before you do flying change, like with a lot of changing of the gait, like transitions between gaits, lengthening the strides, shortening the strides in the trot, in the canter, quick combinations of a few steps of a lateral movement, 90-degree turn, maybe sidestep the other way, or ride a volte the other way, something like that, where you go very quickly from one thing to another. That requires a lot of attentiveness and a lot of energy. And then when you have that, you know, when you've really revved the horse up, you could canter and set the horse up and change, so that you're not cantering very long, but out of that quick succession of turns, sidestepping, you know, transitions and so on, you can do a few strides of the canter and then flying change very soon, right after the up transition. Then you have a better chance to get a good clean flying change when the horse is still revved up from the things you did before. Whereas if you canter long lines, you stay in the canter a long time, the horse will gradually fall asleep and will gradually, you know, work less and maybe get crooked, maybe lean on the forehand. And then you can see with each canter stride, your chances of getting a good flying change diminish, right? Until there's no hope, so to speak. So yeah, try it with revving him up through a quick succession of transitions, turns, lateral movements, and so on. Weight shifts, you know. If the horse knows a little piaffe, you could do some piaffe steps and then canter and change, right? The piaffe can rev the horse up a little too. any side-to-side movement. So doing, 90-degree turn on the haunches left and right, or turn on the forehand left and right, full pass left and right. They can all help to raise the energy level of the horse, shifting the weight quickly back and forth, and stepping left, stepping right, and so on. And when you feel that the blood is starting to boil a little bit, then you can try your flying change. Yeah. So hopefully, that will help. And let me look here on Zoom. Okay. Eva is saying, how do I create a longer suspension? My horse doesn't have much at all. He just doesn't jump. Yeah, that will require more energy. So you may have to rev him up a little bit, and then more suspension. What you need more is more uphill canter. So you can do that with stepping into the outside stirrup and half halting on the outside rein when the withers are up. That creates a more uphill canter. And then you can ask for more jump with, by touching with the calves, or vibrating with the whip, or touching with a spur, So so when the hind legs lift off, you drive a little, so he jumps underneath himself, and then lift the forehand up with your seat and that little outside stirrup, outside rein, and then ask him to jump, ask him to lift, ask him to jump, ask him to lift. And by doing that, you can often improve the quality of the canter. But that kind of canter takes a lot of strength, so the horse may not be able to do it very long, right? Until he's developed those muscles more. It will probably take a little while, before you've remodeled the canter. It can be done, it's possible. What you could probably also do is like cavaletti work, free jumping, or jumping under the rider, like in and outs could be good. And if you make the in and outs low, but maybe set them, space them a little farther apart, so the horse has to let himself fly, make the last one into a bit of an oxer, and it's not the height that's interesting there. It's really more the depth of the jump, so the horse has to stretch and and reach more, so that should help you create a better canter stride too. So it's all kinds of options that you have. And Sarah Barlow says, my mare is very mobile with lateral work, but she hasn't mastered the simple change without trot steps. Am I getting ahead of myself thinking we're ready to do flying changes? Or you can already work on the preparatory work or the introductory exercises to flying changes, but at the same time, I would work on cleaning up the simple changes. If there are trot strides, then the inside hind doesn't flex enough in the down transition. So you could work on that, right? You can work on maybe improving the simple change. First, improve the down transition, right? By lifting the withers more in the canter. Like think of an airplane that lands, that lifts the whole front end up and lowers the rear end, right? So you can do that same thing in the canter, lift the forehand, the withers especially, more and more. So that puts more weight on the hind legs. Then press the inside hind into the ground. You could use inside stirrup, let your pelvic floor drop, half hold on the outside rein, and so you can stifle the canter essentially by doing that, like lifting the forehand and then really pressing the inside hind into the ground, and don't let it come back up, too early, right? So, and just before the horse is halting, so to speak, you can release with your hips and a little with the rein, and then the spill over energy or the leftover energy from the canter will then go into the trot. If you don't flex the inside hind enough, if you release too soon or too much, then there's still so much energy from the canter left that the horse will bounce himself back up into the trot, right? So, and then, as you're improving the simple changes through the walk, the flying changes, or chances for a flying change increase, right? But yeah, but you can start doing the introductory exercises for flying changes quite a while before they're ready to do a flying change, because the preparation starts at the walk, right? You do these exercises at the walk. When they're easy at the walk, you do them at the trot. When that goes easily, you do them at the trot and ask for a canter depart from the trot where the flying change will take place later. And then when that works, you can do it in the canter with a flying change, or you can do it in the canter with a simple change if you feel like it's still a little early for the flying change. Right? So it's a very logical progression. Oh. Nico says, I'm very grateful. What a privilege. Thank you very much for your generosity. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad if we can help, you know, glad if it's useful information. She says, or he says, I don't know, Nico could be either, right? She says, hope one day I can enroll in one of your courses, already have the books, and I feel that these online free sessions are an absolute privilege. Thank you very much. Need to go, being full-time mother, a lady with 2 little boys doesn't leave much time for other things. Thanks again, take care of all of you. Yeah, I know what it's like, 2 little kids. But yeah, I'm glad if the information we provide is useful, and I know not everybody can afford to participate in a paid course, so we want to help those people as well. And so we do our free challenges, right? We just did a top line makeover challenge, which we'll actually repeat next week. And yeah, we do these free live stream sessions. And yeah, so those of you who have to save your money at the moment, you know, you get some hopefully useful information that you can take with you to your horse. And maybe someday, you know, you'll be able to afford a paid course. And even if not, no big deal, you know. And I know with the COVID situation, a lot of people have lost their jobs, or small business owners have lost a lot of income because of it. So yeah, if we can help, it's great. You know, hopefully there'll be better days ahead where you make more money again and get a better job, or your business picks up if you're self-employed. So yeah, so in the meantime, we'll keep doing what we're doing. So everybody hopefully gets through it, you know, and gets something out of it, you know. So yeah, then Susan Zimmerman says, how do you avoid cross-firing on one side? So you're talking about a cross canter probably on one lead. That's a crookedness issue. It's a stiffness of the hind legs. Very often the horse canters in the counter canter with the outside with the hind legs, and in true lead canter with the front legs. Right? It usually happens when the inside hind doesn't flex enough, and it tries to stay straight and extended, and then it pushes the croup up, and then it tries to stay behind so that it doesn't have to step under the body so much. If you make that hind leg supple, and you can do that with walk work, trot work, etc., then the horse will be able to do to canter in the clean, true lead canter without cross cantering. And Sarah Barlow says, I tried doing a quarter pirouette to transition to the walk for simple changes. Good or bad idea? Well, it can be useful. I mean, when you do a canter pirouette, you put a lot of weight into the inside hind, and then yeah, the horse is much less likely to bounce you back up into trot strides, right? So yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could definitely use it. It's the same idea as riding a flying change after a pirouette, quarter or half or whatever pirouette, right? If you shift the weight sharply enough into the inside hind, the horse will either be happy to do a down transition to walk, or he will take the energy of that compression and channel it into a flying change, right? So yeah, absolutely do it. It's something I would do too. It's thought correctly, so to speak, right? And then as the hind legs become stronger and more flexible, you won't need that quarter pirouette, and you can do the down transition on a straight line and then up transition again, right? So yeah, very good. Good thinking. And Beth Brown says, flying changes was my goal this summer. We've worked hard on walk, canter, walk, trot, canter, trot changes. She's doing well on those, but braces a bit when she becomes too tense. I have to keep her calm, to not rush, and listen to the aids. I've only asked a couple of times so far for the change to no avail. I think I'm losing my position when trying because of the effort to change my weight. Perhaps doing too much. I need to remain quieter in my aids. A question mark. Most likely it's actually more of an issue of preparing the horse or not preparing the horse enough, right? We have, in our course, we have these 12 different ways in which you can introduce the flying change to the horse, and they sort of take the horse on a journey, right, where they shift the horse's balance and change the position, the posture of the horse, so that with each new little element that is introduced, the old canter lead becomes more awkward and more illogical and more unpleasant or more strenuous for the horse. So they start thinking, you know, gradually, there's got to be an easier way for me to do this, right? And then there comes a point where they think, well, if I could be cantering on the other lead, I would be a lot more comfortable, right? And then, well, some horses just take the initiative and change, and other horses will change when you ask them to, and they're grateful that when you ask them to change. I think that's probably more it. If you just sort of canter along and then you do your flying change, that's the hardest thing to do. You can do, actually, right? It's a lot easier if you choose an exercise that manipulates the balance and so on of the horse and the alignment of the horse, that he starts thinking of flying changes, and he starts thinking that a flying change would bring relief, you know, would make him feel more comfortable, you know, and then, yeah, he'll be happy to change. Whereas if he's comfortable where he's at and comfortable in the lead that he's cantering on, then there's no incentive to change leads, right? It's like, why bother? You know, flying change is more effort than just keeping on this lead. But if you know, make the canter that he's on right now more strenuous, more tiring, more awkward, whatever, then the flying change seems like not just a lesser evil, but it seems like downright inviting, and like, if I just do this, then I'll be so much more comfortable, so much happier, right? Yeah. So Mary Beck says, how can I help my horse to not change with a high croup or even a little kick into the air with a new inner hind leg? Knowing what he does, sometimes a battle to stay sitting balanced deep in the saddle. I see myself often with a too light seat when it comes to the flying change aid. I should get him to sit back on the hind legs, but my fear to get kicked out of the saddle and change stopped me to ride him correctly into the change. Yeah, that actually could contribute to it. If you evade with your seat and sit lightly, then he knows he can push the croup up and kick out. Then the hind legs don't have to work so much. And well, you could practice canter walk, canter halt transitions, for example. So you really press the inside hind into the ground, you know, and then if those half halts for the down transitions really go through, then you should be able to do a flying change without the horse kicking his heels up. Let's see, scroll down a little. Sarah Gordon says, I think you will read my phlegmatic horse. You summed him up. I'll keep on revving. Yeah, hopefully it'll work. Yeah. Connie Mutton says, great idea to include the piaffe in the flying change training. I'll try to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Connie's horse does the piaffe. Yeah, the piaffe improves the canter. The piaffe can rev the horse up a little bit. Egon von Eindorf wrote in an article in the 70s that you can use the piaffe as a preparation for flying change because it gives you a nice uphill balance if you do it well, and it gives you a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of power. So you could do a few piaffe steps, canter, and change, right? So then you take advantage of the energy of the piaffe, the uphill balance of the piaffe, and then, you know, canter and change before the horse has time to fall apart again, right? So if you have a horse that's little on the phlegmatic side. If you have a horse that tends to fall apart and go on the forehand, then that would be actually a pretty good thing to do. Piaffe, Canter, change, and then so you have to be quick, so preparation then has to be pretty economic, in a sense, pretty efficient, right? So you're not losing time trying to put all the body parts of the horse in the right place. Yeah, so Robin Brickman says, are there live sessions in the flying changes course? Yes, there are. I'm trying to think. I think there are 10 sessions, if I remember that correctly, or either 7 or 10, but there will be regular live Q&A sessions in the course. Hey, Christian Gunderman says, so when the blood boils are revving up, how does it jive with relaxation when there's degree of tension that will actually wreck your change? I guess I have the kind of horses that are very quickly ready to jump out of their skin. Yeah, different type of animal, right? There are horses that are phlegmatic, right? That don't have enough positive muscle tone or not enough energy, not enough core muscle engagement. Those you have to rev up, because otherwise there's just not enough energy to carry them through a flying change, and then it's a little bit like trying to cook a meal, but the temperature of your stove or oven doesn't go up high enough, so nothing ever actually gets cooked, right? So you have to create more heat, so the food gets cooked, so to speak. If you have a really hot horse, then it's all about relaxation, getting the horse to stay calm, stay relaxed, because they have enough muscle tone, or they can increase the muscle tone way above and beyond what you need very quickly, right? It's like the oven that's too hot, and then you burn your food, right? So that's like, don't burn the food, but you need enough temperature so it actually cooks, right? And with a horse, it's the same. Some horses are way too phlegmatic, way too cold, so you have to make them hot. Other horses are way too hot, and you have to really make them calm. So almost sleepy a little bit, really mellow, and then they can do a flying change, because they always have enough power. They always have an abundance of energy. They always have enough muscle tone, or usually too much, or often too much muscle tone. So with them, you have to calm down. So very different personality types, very different kinds of horses. So you need a very different strategy for those, right? And typically, riders tend to have a preference. Some people deal really well with the sleepy ones, with the sleepy horses. They can make, the sleepiest, dullest horse shine and sparkle. But they may not do well with the super hot horses, because then they rev them up too much, and then they can't deal with that excess energy. And other people are really good with the hot ones, the thoroughbred types and Arab types, but they don't do well with a phlegmatic, laid-back horses that you really need to rev up, because it's a completely different skill from what they've always practiced, right? So yeah. Carolyn Heron says, thank you. I'm also lifting my body out of the saddle in the change. I need to work without stirrups. Yeah, sometimes it helps. And Candace C says, question, well-trained but young, forward and active horse. The solution has been to hold the head behind a bit and in a manner which compresses the neck. Is there something that could be done to slow down this energetic youngster while maintaining stretch in the neck? Yeah, so sounds like the horse has a lot of energy and big gaits, pushes a lot. Yeah, you can try slowing down the tempo with stirrup stepping, then you don't have to compress the neck. Also in your seat, you have to, you can play with the tempo and the stride length. So what happens if you make the tempo a little quieter, a little slower in your seat, or with stirrup stepping? Maybe play with the energy level. You could try also ride the horse with a lower energy level. So the trot is more like a jog, and then see what happens. So the horse has maybe an easier time, because if they have big powerful gaits and they push a lot, they also have to catch that. You know, they propel the body a long distance with their strong pushing hind legs, but then the other hind leg has to catch it when it lands, has to catch the body mass, flex it, and then push off again. And if they don't have that carrying power and they don't have the flexor muscles, then the landing leg gets overwhelmed, right? And then maybe they start to get heavy, or they run away, get faster, and so on. So they lose balance. Some of these warm blood sport horses especially have these big giant gaits, and they're not strong enough when they're younger to actually catch that and absorb it. So you can try, you know, reducing the pushing power, so you don't ride the horse as forward, or ride it in a calmer, slower, you know, more mellow trot, for example, and then see what happens, you know, until the hind legs have built the carrying power, the flexor muscles that they need to catch, you know, the body mass and so on, even, you know, when the gait is bigger and the hind legs are pushing more. And Elaine writes, is always like your visual of creating a carousel horse feel as the rider to invite the withers up and make room for the uphill that has worked wonders for my little mare. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, exactly. It's one of the images we use, right? You picture that the carousel horse that sort of goes up and down, and the rider is on the aligned with the pole, right? And then you, in your seat, make room for the withers to come up, you know, so that you make the canter stride more vertical. So you reduce the horizontal, you know, distance it covers, but whatever you take away in stride length, you add in height, right? It's like a ballistic curve. If you make the ballistic curve taller, then it becomes a little shorter, right? And if you make it a little lower, then it can become longer, right? So that's a good strategy for the canter stride, because then you can collect the horse without reducing power, without reducing impulsion or jump, you know. So yeah, so you can play with that through your own through your own seat, etc. You can shape the canter stride, make it higher, or maybe make it, you know, longer, make it higher, etc. You know, so you can shape it with the way you're following the motion in your pelvis, or with you know, stirrup stepping, half halting. You can lift the withers up as well, you know. So yeah, so you encourage the up and down movement more. So Alison Bear says, my gelding just turned 7. He's hot sensitive but not naughty. Our issue is that he was ridden with his chin on his chest and hollow. Oh, and I'm working on getting him over his back and relaxing while I'm doing this course. What are your thoughts on allowing him to collect up before the change? Should I back off of asking for changes until I have him more consistently over his back, or mix it up a bit? Well, I would definitely, you know, try to create a good quality canter through the back and with a feeling of stretch through the top line. Because if he's contracted in the top line and short in the neck, and then you ask for flying changes, that will add another layer of tension, probably, that will probably complicate things and may mess up the changes too. You can do all the preparatory work or the introductory work for the change, like do all the flying changes, patterns in the walk and the trot, and trot with a canter transition, etc. But yeah, wait with the actual flying change until he's cantering nicely through the back and with a feeling of stretch through the top line. Oh yeah, good. Alison says, I'll post some video of our canter to Facebook. That's good that so I can see exactly what he's doing. I mean, I would try to ride him on the bit and, you know, up in the withers and so on, but I would try to create this stretch in the top line. Of course, you know, you could also play with letting him stretch forward, downward in the canter if he does that, and then pick up the reins. But most likely you'll have to create the stretch in the top line at the walk and the trot, and then take that with you into the canter, and then try to maintain it in the canter. And yeah, you can play a little bit with different balances and different neck lengths in the canter. More stretch, less stretch, more elevation, less elevation, that sort of thing. But even when you elevate more, the stretch has to be maintained, right? If you lift the withers, if you elevate the head and neck a little, and then you feel like now he's dropping the back and the withers because the head came up more and now he's curling up or whatever, then you have to ride maybe into a more horizontal balance again, get this, regain the stretch in the top line, which means you may have to go back to the walk or the trot. You know, if you lose it in the canter, maybe back to walk or trot, put it back together there, fix that balance, fix this, recreate the stretch, and then then canter again. You know, so it's probably a lot of up transition, down transition. You know, changing the balance, changing the posture to see where the optimal balance is at the moment, where he can, you know, maybe elevate a little bit, but also maintain the stretch. So that could be, yeah, could require a little trial and error and a little searching for the best frame, right? Okay, so Allison says he's good with forward, down, and canter, but he gets amped easily. Yeah, when he gets hot, some horses get hot in the canter if they almost put too much weight on the hind legs. Then they get a little claustrophobic, and then you could step into the inside front, for example. Like deepest point of the canter stride, you could step a little into the inside front. That takes weight off of the hind legs, puts it into the front legs. That might also help with the stretch through the top line and the back. And you could do sequences of stepping inside front, both inside front. So first canter stride, inside stirrup when the inside front is on the ground. Second canter stride, both stirrups when your seat gets pulled forward. So it's when the main diagonal is on the ground. And third canter stride, inside stirrup when the inside front is on the ground. So that draws the weight more onto the forehand, but it may allow him to lower the neck, lift the back a little bit. And then when you feel like, okay, he's lifting the back, he's stretching again, now I want to channel the energy more uphill, then you could do a stirrup outside hind, both outside hind, right? So it's like the counterpart to the first one. So outside stirrup when the withers are up, then both stirrups when the seat gets pulled forward, outside stirrup again when the withers are up. So it could be inside front, both inside front, that creates a little forward downward stretch, and then outside hind, both outside hind, that creates lift in the withers, and, you know, essentially a little bit of collection, right? So then you can alternate between those two and then see how the horse handles it. Yeah. So let me see, back on Facebook. And Daryl says, I found the stirrup stepping to be very helpful. Yeah, me too. And Canter C says, maybe share videos from the modules. The one identifying the beats of the canter would be very helpful to many. Well, not really outside the course. You know, if you're in the course, yeah, don't share the videos outside the course. But you can explain it to people, of course. You know. Then Barb Kai says, in the course, can we send in videos of our attempts for your review and advice? Absolutely. That's why we have the Facebook group. So you can always post your videos of you writing the exercises from the modules, and then we'll give you feedback. We'll give you tips and maybe make some suggestions of other things to try, things that you can do to improve it, etc., etc. That's an important part of the courses, that we have this Facebook group where you can post videos, and we do our Q&A sessions. I think it's every other week or something in the Flying Changes course. And then there you can ask questions live. You can basically show videos, or I can share the screen for the Q&A session, and we can look at the video together and look at it in detail and stop and, you know, rewind and so on, and play, you know, and that's often really instructive, you know, to look at the videos together with a shared screen. That's going to be in Zoom, you know. Sue Clark says, I'm in New Zealand. I'm looking forward to starting the course. No questions until I get started. I think module 1 comes online tomorrow. I think it is already. Online. And I think that's the course where we gave 2 weeks for the first module, so everybody has time to get settled in. But yeah, you should be able to see it already. If you signed up for the course, you should be able to see the first module and get right into it. And hey, there is here on YouTube, Beth Brown says, what do the reins do during the change? Is one rein creating more flexion on the new side? Yeah, so it helps to create the new bend before you ask for the change, right? So the old outside leg and rein, bring the horse to the new outside leg and rein. That shifts the weight and that creates the new bend. And then with the new outside leg and rein, you can trigger the change. So the new outside rein can give a little half halt that supports the new outside leg in pushing the croup a little in a new direction. Then here, Dubois horsemanship says, regarding the horses trained in the past to do flying changes by different technique, can I put the horse in the standard dressage technique easily? You can change, absolutely. I mean, of course, if you find that it confuses the horse, then maybe keep the aids the way you had them. But I've experimented with horses with different aids for the flying change, and so I reprogrammed them, so to speak. Right, I had done one type of aid for the flying change, and then maybe I wasn't so happy with the result, or I was thinking, well, I'm wondering if this other way of doing it would work too. So I did that, and it worked too. So the horses are actually fairly flexible. They can usually relearn, or they, you know, if you feel like, oh, this technique might give me a better result than what I've been doing, you can change it. Absolutely, it works. Yeah. Oh, so Clark says, where would I find it? Will derive in my email or on the Facebook group. You can see the course, the new module in your account in the course platform. Sue Clark, probably, right?
After she's
so if you're
in the course platform,
yeah,
there's a whole course platform where everything is hosted.
Yeah. So in our course platform, if you look under my courses, then you see everything listed, all the courses you've bought, right? And so you should see the 2020 Flying Changes course, and then click on that, and then it shows you the first page with the module, which module has been released yet, and what's in there. Click on that, and so on, and then you can work through that. So if you're registered for the course, then you find it in the course platform. Usually we send out an email too, and usually there's also a notification in the Facebook group, usually with a link to it, and you can click on that and so on. And if you click on the link that's in the email or in the Facebook group, and you get the message that you're not authorized to look at that link, then you need to log into your account first in the course platform. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, log into the course platform, and then when you click the link, it takes you to the course, or you can go just in your course platform, my courses, and then you see all the courses that you've bought so far, and then you can choose which one you want to look at. So, but speaking of the course, I would like to tell you a little bit more about what's in there, if that's okay.
You guys want to hear about it?
Mm-hmm.
ask them if they want to hear.
Yeah, I do want to hear about that. Let me see here. Okay, I have to find Alexa. Yeah. So open the wrong link here. I have to look at.
Do you have it?
Hold on, I have to open the sign up page so I have the overview of what's in there. So here I have it.
You know what you're talking about.
Exactly. So I know it's been doing this all day, and we're doing the top line makeover too. So I get lost. So Carla Stanley also wants to know, do you have to join the top line course today to get all the bonuses? I think
yes.
so. One goes away at midnight our time.
No,
right?
At midnight Pacific time.
Oh, midnight Pacific time, so it's different.
9 a.m. our time.
Okay, so you still have a little time.
But yes, it's technically, for most people, it's today.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. To get that rider makeover bonus, you have to enroll today.
Okay, so let me see. In the Flying Changes course, I just have to find the list. Yeah, so we have a whole bunch of stuff in there, right? It's 15 weeks, I think. It's 14 modules. So we will discuss when to start flying changes. We'll talk about the footfalls of the canter. We'll talk about the timing of the aids in the canter and how you can, influence the canter stride and shape the canter stride, because sometimes you may have to shape the canter stride, make it bigger, rounder, more uphill, straighter, so the horse is able to do a flying change, right? So yeah, then we'll talk about how you can feel the 3 phases of the canter stride, right? We'll talk about prerequisites for the rider to be able to do flying changes, because the rider has to meet certain prerequisites too. Then prerequisites for the horse to be able to do flying changes. So in terms of basically, suppleness, physical skills, straightness, balance, etc. Body awareness, coordination, these things that play a role in the flying change. We'll give you strategies and explain the psychology behind the flying changes, how to train flying changes, so how to go about it so it becomes the horse's idea, so the horse is motivated to do flying changes, and you don't have to, push the horse, force the horse, etc. Right? So the more you can make it his idea, the easier and more effortless it becomes. Yeah, we do rider exercises, but it's more like rider lessons, Feldenkrais lessons that Catherine McCrum is teaching. They really help, with the rider's balance and straightness, coordination, suppleness, and so on. Because, for example, if your pelvis can move pretty easily in one direction, but not so easily in the other direction, then your flying change will be much better in the direction where you can move easily with your pelvis. And in the other direction, it may not always happen, or it may happen late some of the time, and so on, right? So that's why, the rider is a part of the equation too, and the Feldenkrais lessons are just brilliant to give the rider overall better body awareness, better mobility, better balance, and so on. Yeah, so we explain how you prepare the horse for the flying change, so you set him up for success. We teach you some preliminary exercises for the horse, right, that you can do to teach the horse the building blocks, in a sense, that he needs to be able to do a flying change. Then we'll go into seat and aids, of course. For the flying change, we'll talk about seat mistakes that happen that would sabotage the flying change. Then we have 2 modules that talk about the mistakes that happen, horse mistakes that happen in the flying change, and how you can fix them. Yeah, and then we have, of course, the centerpiece is the 12 roads, right, that we use for the flying change. So that, our old teacher always used to say a good trainer should know at least 3 different ways to teach the horse something, or to solve a certain problem. And so we have actually 12 different methods, or 12 different exercise patterns that lead the horse on this journey of discovery, you know, where he discovers that the flying change might be a good idea to do, right? And they're very different. Some of them have round lines, some of them have straight lines, some of them change from counter canter to true lead, some of them change from the true lead to the counter canter, some of them involve changes of direction, some of them stay on the same rein. So all kinds of different possibilities. And I find that most horses have one particular, you know, road to the flying change, or one particular exercise pattern that makes sense to them, where it's like the penny drops and the horse thinks, ah, if I could only change leads now, life would be so much easier, right? Some horses, you know, don't get it that easily. They need sort of a little bit of everything, and then there's a cumulative effect often, where after practicing all of these different possibilities, the horse finally gets it that he can do a flying change. But a lot of horses have a particular preference, right? And so the more different ways you know, the more, you know, the faster you can find the approach that works for your horse and that makes sense to the horse. Yeah, so they're all fun to ride and they're interesting, and they all improve the horse's suppleness and straightness and balance and the smoothness and lightness and so on. So the horses always end up feeling a lot better to ride, whether they get a flying change or not. You know, by practicing each one of those 12 different rows to the flying change, the horse will get a lot more supple and more balanced with every one of them. Yeah, so the courses, in case you haven't been in our courses, they have videos where we explain how, you know, what the exercises consist of and how to ride them. There are PDFs, graphics that go with the exercise, so you can take a look at, you know, what the pattern is, and there's a text with it that explains, you know, how to ride it, why, you know, to do it, and what to look out for, you know, what possible mistakes could happen, and so on as you ride the exercise. Then we have rider demo videos, so you can look at, you know, what it looks like when it's ridden. Yeah, for some people that's maybe more beneficial than a graphic. Yeah, we have the Facebook group where you can ask questions, you can post your videos or photos and then get feedback from us and from our assistant teachers. So we can help you troubleshoot, find out why certain things are not working the way they're supposed to, or the way you want them to work, right? And yeah, you get some tips on how to modify the approach. Yeah, we have the live Q&A sessions. There you can ask questions. You can also pre-post questions if you're busy during that time. You can't watch live, then you can watch the recording. We always record everything, right? And you get it as a video recording, audio recording, so you can even listen to the Q&As when you're driving in your car, or you're cleaning stalls, or doing whatever, right? So, and if you look through the archives, then you see maybe find questions that you have too, or maybe somebody had the same issue that you're having, and then, you know, you can maybe find answers to your questions in the archives before we have our next Q&A session or something like that. Right? Yeah, so in the Flying Changes course package, we have, you know, the 14 modules there with the 12 roads to the flying change. Because this is a beta course, you will also be automatically enrolled in the next run through the course, so without, you know, having to pay anything for it. It's a beta course because we don't have all the footage for all the mistakes that happen in the flying change. So either our last group of participants didn't film the mistakes and didn't send them to us, or they were so successful.
They didn't get all of them.
Yeah, they didn't get all. Yeah, I know we got some, but not all of them. That's some are missing. That's why we decided to do this as a beta course again, and hopefully now in this course we will get footage of the remaining mistakes that can happen in the flying change. And then we could add that. We were discussing and explaining the mistakes and how you can fix them, but it would be nice to get some video footage of them actually happening, right? Yeah, so then we have this group coaching Q&A package, 10 live sessions where you can ask questions. We can also look at your videos in the Q&A session, and I can share the screen and then we can analyze it in detail. That's always fun to do. This year we also added closed captioning to our videos. That's had been requested, and now we can actually offer that. You get access to the Q&A archive. So in other words, all the Q&As of the last course. So there were 20 Q&A sessions from the 2018 Flying Changes Better course.
Because we just kept going.
Yeah, we just kept going, So we kept adding Q&As. And there's a whole range of topics. It's not just about flying changes. There's a lot of other stuff on there too, whatever questions people had or whatever they were dealing with, right? Yeah, we have the Facebook group, of course. Then we have 2 bonus exercises for the Canter preparation. For the flying change, you need a certain quality canter. And typically the canter is only as good as the transition into it. Yeah? The transition into it is only as good as the previous gait that you were riding. So we spend a lot of time on preparing canter departs, because it's a lot easier to maintain a good quality canter than it is to repair a bad quality canter. So if your horse has a bad canter depart, bad transition, then you have a bad canter. And then trying to fix that is really hard, right? Hard for you, hard for the horse. So it's better than to abandon the attempt, go back to the trot or the walk, balance the horse, prepare the canter, hopefully get a better depart into a better quality canter, and then work with the good quality canter rather than having to fix a bad quality canter, right? Yeah, then we have a bonus module on flying changes on the long rein. I've actually taught a horse or two the flying changes on the long rein, which is an option if the horse is not too big. And if you're tall enough, then the horse just has to deal with their own body weight and their own, center of gravity, etc. It makes it easier for the horse in a way than having to figure it out under the rider. And so we do a bonus module on cantering on the long rein, and then we do a live master class on flying changes to go with it. Well, I'm just seeing here, and Whitehall says, if I did the 2018 flying changes course, do I also have access to the new? Yes, because this is a beta course. You were in the first beta course, and now you're in the second beta course, and then in the final one,
Yeah, you have it in your course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so exactly, you should see it in your course library. So you should see the new course in your under my courses, in your library. Yeah, then we do a module on tempo changes along with a master class. I mean, the course itself is really aimed at people who don't have a lot of experience and whose horses don't have a lot of experience at flying changes, or even, people who've never done a flying change, whose horse has never done a flying change. That's sort of the target audience. But we also add a module on tempo changes, so that you have some perspective on, so what next, right? Now my horse can do flying changes. Where do we go from here, right? So obviously tempo changes would be the next thing to do, right? And then we show you how to approach tempo changes. And so it's a bonus module plus master class in there. Then you get a bonus recordings module. I think those were all the live, stream events, whatever that we did surrounding flying changes and canter topics. We've done them over here the last couple of years, probably.
A whole bunch of it.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch. Yeah, exactly. It's all stuff that supplements the info in the course and comes in handy. So, when you're trying to improve the canter and trying to teach flying changes.
These were free things that we did, but you can download them and listen to them like they're podcasts.
Right, exactly.
So you don't have to go looking for them.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to hunt them down. Yeah, it's compiled for you. It's it's like a audio, like a podcast, exactly. And there's also in that package, there are some coaching sessions that I did with Carolyn Riddle, who's one of our assistant instructors. She's a really good rider, has some interesting horses. And so we were working on some issues surrounding flying changes. So that might be interesting to watch. So then we have Feldenkrais lessons for the mobility of the rider.
We're adding a whole bunch this time.
Yeah, so here it says 14 movement lessons. Yeah, it's more than in the first run through. Yeah, Catherine is making more lessons that she's trying to target to the seat and aids that you have to use in the flying changes, right? So that's lessons that specifically support flying changes. So ability to shift the weight, rotate your pelvis, move the rib cage, and so on, right? And most of these lessons here, they're now specific to this course, and they're not available anywhere else. So there's some Feldenkrais lessons that we share in between several courses, but here Catherine is making a whole bunch of new ones that are nowhere else, basically, right?
There's a tiny bit of crossover.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a couple of.
A couple of them, like 2 or 3 lessons, crossover with other courses, and otherwise they're all new.
Yeah, most of them are new. Yeah, so then we have the fast action bonuses. Every 2 days we remove 1 bonus, and 1 is already gone.
Two are gone.
2 are gone. Okay. So.
1 is gone in German, 2 are gone in English.
Oh, okay.
And we're always behind in German.
Yeah. So, but the bonuses that are still there is the Flying Changes exercise ebook. That'll come out in December, has to be compiled still. So it contains the exercises of the course as a PDF.
It might come out sooner. We just want to give us some time because we have a lot.
Yeah, a lot to do, So, so the PDF, you can download, you can print it, laminate it, take to the barn, or you can load it on your cell phone and take that with you into the arena, then pull it out and choose an exercise or refresh your memory. So where do I have to go here? Where do I have to turn? How do the aids go? So that's a convenient little thing to have. Yeah, take that ebook with you into the arena. Then we have the Stirrup Stepping Master class from a live, event we did in 2019. Stirrup stepping always shows up in everything we do, right? All the courses, because it can support and improve everything. And it's not a widely known technique, so people always ask about it, and then we did some events where we explain what it is, how you do it, how it works, etc. Canter C says, does that mean I cannot access the bonuses? I should have looked at them first. No, if you Canter C wants to know if she should have looked at the bonuses first, or if she cannot access them. Well, I don't quite understand, but if you're in the course, you have the bonuses, right? Or if you did the first Flying Changes course, you get the bonuses too, right? So the ones who were in our first beta course, they get all the new bonuses. And people who are now quickly enrolling, or those who have enrolled for the second round, they get the bonuses. The ones who were in the first round, they already have the bonuses. Yeah, so no stress, right? Yeah. Then we have a full pass bonus, also a live event. Full passes can be useful in the context of Flying Changes because they help you shift the weight and change the bend. So that is a good tool to teach the horse to rock the weight more to the left side or more to the right side. That is okay. So Candace says, I signed up early for the bonuses. Well, then you should have them.
You should have.
Yeah, check in your account in the course platform. If they're not,
if you have any problem, just email.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you don't find them for any reason, just email us, and then we'll load them into the platform. But they should be there. You should be able to find them and access them anytime. That's the other thing, but that I forgot. Lifelong access, right? So if for whatever reason you have to interrupt because you get sick, the horse gets sick, or whatever. You can't ride because, you know, there's smoke in the air, that sort of thing. Just, you know, leave it be for the time being, and then come back to it when you can ride again. You know, it never goes away. You always have access to all the live Q&As in the future when we run the course again. I mean, you'll be in the next run of the course anyway, because this is a beta course. But in all the future runs, you'll be able to participate in the Facebook group. You'll be able to ask questions in the Q&A sessions and so on. So you can always interrupt, come back, work slowly as you need to. A lot of people are worried that they may not be able to get through the materials as fast as they come at them. And yeah, so we designed it so that everybody can work as slowly or as quickly as they like. So there's no stress. And yeah, if you have to interrupt because you break a leg, or we had a lady who got pregnant and gave birth, you know, so she had to interrupt one of the courses and came back to it. So no problem at all, right? And somebody says, oh yeah, Candace is saying, thank you, I will check. Yeah. Tony Pickersgill, what is the red? You mean the wine? It's a Portuguese one. I don't even know which one is, but it's good.
It is.
Shana has the bottle of it.
Here.
Oh yeah.
It has a horse on the label. That's why you want it, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Vinhos Velvet.
Yeah, Cavallo Negro. That's pretty good. Yeah. It was on sale. So yeah. Vinhos Velhas. Good wine. Portugal has great wine, especially red wine. So get back to the bonuses. We have a counter canter mini course, right? You can use the counter canter to improve the quality of the canter. Yeah, it has great straightening qualities, right? So there are 11 exercises in the counter canter mini course that will help you to introduce the counter canter, develop it, polish it, etc. And yeah, so we'll talk about seat and aids and so on as well. But the one caveat with the Rosie. Yeah, so when you teach flying changes, you know, traditionally it was always said that you should teach or confirm the counter canter, but don't confirm the counter canter until the horse can do a 6-meter volte in the counter canter and be perfectly happy doing it, right? Because if the horse gets too comfortable in the counter canter, then he doesn't see a reason to change, or he may get the idea that we don't want flying changes, that we want counter canter all the time. So introduce the counter canter maybe, but teach the flying change while the counter canter is still a little bit awkward and a little bit yeah, uncomfortable for the horse. So you can use it as an incentive for the horse to change leads, right? If you wait too long, it creates problems usually. Yeah, so let's see here. Next bonus, Canter live training recordings. Yeah, I think I mentioned that before, didn't I? Exactly. So these live events that we had done. So there's different topics like crookedness in the canter, disunited diagonal, how to improve the canter departs, how to get a good canter. That's only a PDF apparently. Then riding movements in the canter begins with this. Can't remember what it is now, but so, and then yeah, 5, you know, must-haves in the canter, how to transform your horse's canter. So you see all issues around canter quality, transitions into the canter, out of the canter.
You should watch it to find out, Thomas.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I should, huh? So yeah, 3 tools to improve your canter. Why is the seat so important in the canter? So it's stuff that's good background information for the flying changes. And yeah, so the course package then contains the 14 modules. Then you will be enrolled automatically in the next round of the flying changes course.
Next year.
Next year, yeah. Yeah, you get the 2020 Q&A coaching package with the closed captioning. That closed captioning is added a few days after the event, right? Because it takes a little time to put it together.
Yeah.
Then yeah, the flying changes course Facebook group, Q&A archives. Then the bonus module, flying changes on the long rein, bonus module, tempo changes. Then the master classes on long reining and tempo changes. Then the 2 bonus exercises for the Canter preparation, Canter topic recordings, Feldenkrais lessons, flying changes ebook, stirrup stepping masterclass, full pass masterclass, recording, Canter mini course, Canter live recordings bundle.
Yeah, things that would be useful for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
We don't just throw a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff in there.
Yeah,
this
really.
is stuff that would actually be useful for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's beneficial and creates a bit of a wider context for the flying change, right? Because some of it is more about the Canter and quality of the Canter and so on. But if you don't have a good quality Canter, you'll have a hard time with the flying changes. That's why that's pretty important, right? Yeah. So, and we have payment options, so you can pay
different currency options,
different currency. Exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we have US dollars, Canadian, Australian dollars, British pound sterling, New Zealand dollars. I think there's a rand option too, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there is. It's just not listed.
It's not listed here,
but there because I added it after the fact.
Yeah, okay. But and then we can pay everything at once, or you can pay in 6 monthly installments, or 12 monthly. Yeah, exactly.
For a year. Even
so
though
then
the course isn't a year, you can spread it out over a year if you're hurting and struggling, And if you want to pay some of it off early, you can just email us and we put it together so that you can pay it off your remaining amount in one lump sum.
Yeah.
So you don't have to linger.
Yeah. So Andir Woodall says, I think that's part of my problem with Cezanne. He does the counter Canter so well. He's very happy to stay there.
Yeah, this can be a problem.
Yeah, we did a live stream thing 2 weeks ago where we talked about that counter Canter or flying changes, and I did a little survey, and in the German group there were a lot of people who basically were good little students and did what they had learned, like confirm the counter Canter before flying changes, and they all had negative outcomes. They all had trouble with the flying changes. In the English group, there was one lady who said it worked well for her. She did that. Teach counter Canter first, then flying change, no problem. So don't know what you're talking about, basically. But there were several people who. I know it's great when it works.
It just goes to show that horses are individuals.
Yeah. Exactly. But most people, who really spend a lot of time perfecting the counter Canter, they had trouble later, because it's like the horse gets this idea that the flying change doesn't exist. It's not a thing. We don't do that. It's not allowed. It's not wanted, and then becomes a mental blockage, and then that can be pretty hard to solve, And, sometimes, in the past, people, would show second level, and then they really drill the counter Canter, and then they punish the horse if they accidentally change leads.
Because of course it's a bad thing to happen in a test.
Yeah, you lose some points, right?
Yeah.
But
not required at this level.
but would you rather be second level champion and top out at second level, or would you rather lose, not place in the ribbons at second level, but then move on to Grand Prix, So what's better, what's worse,
You have to keep in sight the whole picture.
Yeah,
the big picture.
Exactly.
Where you're going in training.
The horses that were punished for doing unwanted flying changes, they can be super difficult to win their trust and get them to try a flying change, because then in the back of their mind is, I get beat if I do that, right? Or if I get yanked on if I do a flying change. So very, very important. If it happens accidentally, act like you wanted it, praise, reward, take a break.
Oh, how about that?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Or then try your counter Canter, whatever you were doing, but try to be more precise in your seat so the horse doesn't change this time, right? So, so that's a better strategy, right? And, Anne says, that's what I was taught, but he's the first one I've had so much problems with. And it's possible that there are horses that can handle doing a lot of counter Canter, and then still they learn the flying changes is no problem. But there are a lot of horses then that get the wrong idea, right? And then once they have the wrong idea, it's not so easy to get rid of that wrong idea again. So, yeah. Yeah. All right. So I think this is the important information.
Check YouTube, check.
Yeah, actually what you can do here. Yeah, hold on a second. I want to post that link everywhere.
YouTube, check Facebook.
Oh, so
yeah, it's posted on Facebook. It's just not on the Zoom. It's not on YouTube.
Nessa is saying, thank you so very much. You've brought some sunshine to this smoky day in the Northwest. It may be a little while till we get riding again. I'll watch the rest when it's posted. 1 million thanks. Oh, thank you for being the wonderful folks that you are. That's so sweet. Nessa, thank you.
I miss you.
Yeah, I know. We do. It's been a long time since we actually met. Yeah. Let me...
Oh, hey, we have comments on the YouTube.
Yeah.
Yay! That's really
okay,
cool.
Yeah, here. So we had a couple of questions I answered. And Dubois Horsemanship says, thanks for your higher efforts. My question is about how can I get your certification? We don't have one yet, but we will probably offer one. I just don't have a really good idea yet of how to organize it all and how to do it so it's meaningful and useful
It'll come
to
together.
people.
It just takes us to think.
Have to think about it
some
somewhat.
time to think about it and work on it. Just like the courses that we have now, they always came, it seems like to you guys, they suddenly appear, right? But we were working on them for a long time behind the scenes before then.
Exactly.
And same thing with certification. It's something we've been thinking about a lot and starting to work on, but we want to do it right.
Yeah, gather some ideas.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll do it. Right now we also are super busy that we don't really have time to work on that. So that has to wait until
next week.
To get through some of the courses, and then eventually we'll do it probably. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure we will. It's the next step, really.
It's the next step. Yeah. So let me also post this here on the page. The link to the sign up here.
You're on the River Dressage page.
I know, and I want to post it here.
But it's in the Facebook Live already.
It's in there?
Well, you can post it as a comment.
As a comment, exactly.
It's as the title.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. No, then it was unnecessary, I guess, but whatever.
Scroll up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it does. Well, I don't know.
Doesn't look like it. No,
it's supposed to be, because I edited it.
No.
Okay.
But we can, maybe somebody can pin it, and I don't know, I can't do it here, but no. So let me see if there's another comment here. Oh. No. Nothing.
We should probably bring it to a close.
Yeah, no, it's been 2 hours.
It's late, and
crazy.
we have kids we have to feed and get to bed because it's a school night.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you all for showing
thanks for showing up and asking good questions, as always.
Great questions and chatting. I love all the chatting. When I wasn't here on camera, I was right over there listening to it all.
Yeah.
I'm just working
the
whole time.
I know.
So, but thank you all for showing up. I hope we see you in the courses. I want you to know we also have on Thursday, we're doing another one of these live streams. And that one is on the biomechanics of the flying change. So we'll see you then.
Yeah. Might be interesting.
Might be. We'll see.
So,
you never know.
Thanks a lot. And we'll see you soon. Bye. Bye.
Stay safe.